2024, and from Southern Alberta, Canada. And I'm going to get right into my stitching. So last time, one of my first Flosstube, I talked to you about a book that I had done some cross stitch, and I showed you some pictures. And I was kind of wondering, because this was dated 93 and the other ones were dated 91, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, I have figured that out, because I actually stitched them from these two leaflets actually. So the boy is in this one and the girl was in this one. They're by Alma Lynn and they're dated 1989. So that sort of solves the mystery. I did want to show you something else that I was really interested in stitching, because I think they're just so super cute, even though they're dated patterns. I really like that one. And I really like this guy. I love those kind of plaid-ish sort of pants. I love the patriotic. And there's a couple over here with balloons, teddy bears, very classic, early 90s. And I wanted to show you, and I actually have a working copy ready to go for one of them that I've had for 20 some years. And it's of this, this girl right here. She's super cute. And then there's also a counterpart to that plaid fella, and I sure like that one as well. So maybe someday I'll be able to get to do them. But the project that I did do that I want to show you today is this project here, and it's a welcome sign that I did. So I'll get up nice and close. And it's dated 1993. So that would have been one of the first projects that I did after I got out of nursing school. So that was really great. The next one I want to show you is a finish that I have. I was really happy to do this. Back in the early 90s, I had gone to a store that's close by. It would be like my local LNS, but it's kind of like a catch-all of everything, mostly yarns and yeah, like crochet and knitting, but they have a lot of other fiber arts that they try to carry. And back then in the day, I had bought this pattern. And it is, people will recognize it, it's a lavender and lace. An old pattern by Lavender and Lace. And if you can see, I paid $7.98 for it, Canadian. So that was kind of cool. And back at that time, I thought, oh, I'm just not a good enough stitcher to do this. I won't try to do this. However, when I come back to stitching, I'm like, I'm going to start that one piece. So I started it in April of 21. And I had kind of gone a little ways on it. I was working on it in September for different things. And then I decided to make a decision to work on it in December of last year. I kind of drew out lines and chopped it up into sections to see if I could finish one section every 10 days and get it done by June of this year. And I was able to do that. It was tough going. There were times where I'm like, do I really want to finish this? It's a really dated pattern. What am I going to do with it? And then I decided, no, I do want to finish it. And I kept on going, because some of them were like probably 1,200 stitches in 10 days, some of the sections. But anyways, I was able to get it done. So I'll show you now the finished. It is done on a 32 count natural raw linen, and it's done with all the called for DMC. Some things about this that they sort of taught me. Number one is back then during, in the COVID section of life, I was trying to buy some fabrics online, thinking that I would come up with this really wonderful hand-dyed fabric and it was just going to pop on something and or whatever. Well, after like the third piece of fabric that I bought at probably $70 Canadian a piece, give or take, I'm like, okay, I cannot buy fabric online anymore like that way. I mean, if I buy a piece and I like it, but to try to match something up, it was too hard. It was, I just don't have the funds to do that. So I decided to go back to what they called for and do that. And I'm very happy with it. The other thing I wanted to point out was, where people talk about, like, how do you start something? Like, where do you start? Do you start, which corner do you start, et cetera, et cetera. And what I would say to start about this one, what I did was I knew I had given myself a margin. I got to bring this down a bit. I'd given myself a margin of about 3 inches. So I folded the fabric in half and I knew I could come down 3 inches and then I could start from there because that was the easiest spot to count to. I mean, if I went over 3 inches and then over, I'd have to do so much counting. So this is an example of why I would say that not every project gets started in the same spot. It all depends on the shape of the project, for me anyway. And so that was the easiest spot to start with, and that's what I did. Now, somewhere on this side, I had to fudge a bit because it was not adding up and I could not find it. But no one would ever know the difference. Everything else turned out really great. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out was I did try her skin 1/1, which means I used 1 strand of thread over 1 thread of the fabric to make my X's. I did try to kind of blend it, try to make it not such strong lines, but I feel like it just kind of has done that anyway. I used silk floss and that's not any better. I'm just going to come back this way. Sorry. I used almond M&M silk floss skin colors for it. That was the last thing I did in this project was those faces and the skin, because I hadn't decided if I wanted to do that or not, do the 1/1. When I got to the very end, I decided, okay, yes, I was going to do it. There wasn't that much, and I thought if I didn't like it, it wasn't a huge commitment, and so I could kind of keep going. Now that I look at it, I don't know that it actually improved it at all. Sometime I'm going to show you another project of Nora Corbett, which is the daughter to this lady who designed these lavender and lace. And I just stitched that skin on the project normally, and I'm actually maybe even happier with that. So I'm not sure that I would do that again. The only other time that I have stitched 1/1 skin was way back in the day. I don't know when, but I'm going to show you a picture because I still had the magazine that I got it from. And this is from May 1999. And I actually stitched this for a friend's daughter. And someone showed me back then, a nurse showed me, and I did the 1/1 skin on her face and on her little feet there. And it seemed to me that it went really nice. back then. I do remember not understanding why some of my threads would slip. So the thread, the floss thread, would slip under the thread of the fabric. And at that time, I didn't understand why it was doing that. So some of them I would stitch a couple times to get it to stay there. Now I understand how to stitch that 1 over 1 to prevent it from slipping, your floss from slipping behind the threads of the fabric. The next group of projects that I want to show you is from a young gal from Ontario. And right now, I want to say, is it Christina, I think, or Catherine? Christina, I think. I'm so sorry. She is Sweet Violet Stitch Co. on Etsy or on YouTube. She has a YouTube channel and it's called Where the Wildflowers Are, I think. I'll put it down below. Anyways, I've been watching her Flosstube for a little bit, and she kind of started to dabble a bit in designing, and she came out with these little houses. So she put out like a house a month, or that's what she is doing. And when I saw this one, so I'm going to show you the pictures of what it is first, and then then I'll show you what I was working on. So the first one that I did was called Tulip House. I did this one. Basically her exact pattern. What I liked most about it was I liked the little house. I liked the little round window. I liked this pot on the top of her, the roofs, and I loved the giant stuff beside it. So I actually picked my own colors, but the rest of it is the same. But she had a bunch of butterflies here and so on, and instead of stitching those, I put in buttons. So then I went on to do some of her other ones. So this was the May one. I went back and did the April one. Again, basically I picked whatever colors that I had or close. She had some clouds up here and I put buttons there instead. Now the next one that I wanted to do was the sunflower, which is the July one, Sunflower House. Now, talking about the elements that I liked about it, I did change things a little bit. So I got the house in and I put this here, the pot on the roof, which I don't think is in the original. I would have put up a picture, the original pattern. I loved her sunflower and the bee skip. And she had another bee skip up here, I believe, but I wanted to put something different in the pot. So I just found, I think from Pinker and Pumpkin blogspot.com, Melissa, I found something and I did adapt it a bit, but that's what I used. Now, this one is for myself. I actually stitched a second one, not completely the same. I did a few things a little bit different. But I participated in the Canada swaps this year. That was run by 3 Canadians, 2 gals from Prince Edward Island, by the 2, I'll put it down below. Your brain always turns off when you're trying to film yourself. But the 2 ladies from Prince Edward Island, and then a gal from Ontario, Karen the Stitching Owl, I believe. And they got together and organized a small swap that you could do. And it is running. Your smalls, you participate, and then you have to send it off by Labor Day. I was able to get mine done. And so I really like the finish of it. I don't have anything to show you. maybe in my next Flosstube, I will add the pictures, or maybe I will add them now. Maybe I'll add them now because the person is probably gonna get it by the time this comes out, because I've sent it last week already. But I really like the finish of it, and so that's what I want to do with these ones. I have some buttons picked out to go up there. And then I am now working on the June one. And this is the June one. It's called Strawberry House. She did not have this. I wanted to do something different here because, again, I liked the pot on the roof, and I liked something giant here. And so I decided to find a jam jar and put it there. And I actually got it from May 1989 for the Love of Cross Stitch. And I just used one of these jars, the pattern. And so then with the rest of her pattern, I am just gonna fill in all her viney stuff that she had here, whatever works, and stop when it runs into something. And then I might stitch some of the strawberries, but I might put in buttons for those as well. And that's what I'm gonna do for that one. They're super cute. I have the March one, but and she hasn't come out with the August one yet. But I know she was on maternity leave and going back to work this month, and so I'm sure she'll get to it when she can. Life is busy for all of us, isn't it? The next project that I want to show you is kind of like a multi-project thing. Let me start by maybe explaining it this way. Let me see here. So I had got off a destitching site. I had found, it's a hand towel. It's a linen hand towel. And I got 2 of them. I took this one and I coffee tea dyed it. And then what I did was, through the Punch Needle Primitive Stitcher magazines, let me see what year. So it was in 2022. There was a lady, Teresa Miller of Teresa's Primitive Stitchers. Teresa's Primitive Treasures. She had a little pattern in each of the magazines for that year in each of these magazines. So I started off with the middle. Let me get this. And what I did was I found the middle of the fabric, and then I stitched Bent Flower House, I believe it's called. I used Valdani threads for this, the three stranded Valdani threads, just in whatever colors that I thought matched the best. As you can see, I've used a stitching line there, some thread actually. Where is that thread? Right here. So it's an Easy Guide count thread, and it's like a nylon type thicker thread, so that I don't start them on a different line, like I get them all lined up so they're all the same. And then what happens is, even if I stitch over it or whatever, it just pulls out super easy. It doesn't get stuck on anything. And so I did that one in January of 23. And then the next one I did was a winter one. So this was my summer. And then I did a winter one by the same gal. Again, I used Valdani threads, and the only thing I believe I changed is these, I made, it's, I don't know if you'd call it a turkey stitch or what, but I just made little tufts on the end of his scarf there. And so now I'm going to be doing the full one, and it's called Flower and Pumpkin, and I'll put a picture. And so then it's going to go on that side of this. And then I do have a lot up here, and she has this, I believe, a spring one that is some words like faith, hope, and love or something. And I'm not sure if I'm going to spread it out or I'm going to find some more of her patterns, because she has a pattern, and I think just about every punch needle magazine issue. And so I might find some other of her stuff and fill this all in and just have it like a dresser scarf or something like that. My next project that I'd like to talk about is a well-known project. It is one of my more modern projects. It's called Feast of Friendship, and it's by Blackbird Designs. And the house, that blue house is what got me. I just love that. So when I was, we go to Las Vegas every year for an archery event, and I was able to go to Stitcher's Paradise, and I was able to get the called for overdyed floss for it. I believe they're all Gentle Arts or Classic Color Works, I guess. But those are the flosses. And I actually started it last year for World Cross Stitch Day. I'm going to just put this up here. I'll put a picture. I believe I had taken a picture of where I had started. I started up in this corner and had done a little bit here. And that's all I did was that one day last year for World Cross Stitch Day. This year, I pulled it out and I had to unpick probably half of what I did last year. So I had like about this much maybe to carry on with. So I extended World Cross Stitch Day, I think, from the Saturday all the way to through the following week. And this is what I was able to get done. So I'm doing the border, and this is just the start of the house, just to make sure things were lining up and whatnot. So I'm excited to keep going on that one. Now that it's fall, I just love the colors of this. This fabric is, that I got down at Stitcher's Paradise as well, is an R&R fabric, and it's called Old Town Blend, and it's a 30 count. My last project that I want to show you is a birth sampler that I'm doing for my grandson. I just had my first grandson here at the beginning of August, and I'm so proud of my son and his wife. They did so well, and they're just doing great as new parents. They're really doing wonderful. I'm going to put in probably a shameless picture or two of him up here. The project that I am stitching for him is a modern folk embroidery. This is the Year of the Dragon. And I had been looking at these for a while because I knew that he would be born this year, and I was trying to stitch something because my daughter-in-law is Chinese, and so it would be something that would be memorable to her, because they do honor a lot of Chinese traditions. The other thing is that the book The Hobbit has always been a very loved book for me. I read it as a child, and my mom actually got me this really lovely copy when I was young, like grade 4 or 5, and I loved this book. I read it over and over, and it's got a lot of great illustrations. It's a great, big, huge book. But anyway, this pattern is called Never Laugh at Live Dragons. I dropped the thread. So I have a picture of where I was, I think the previous time I showed you, and this is where I am now. This is the border, that's how wide it'll be, and then it'll come down, but I wanted to work my way down, so the dragon will be in here, and then I'm going to put his birth information down here. So that's why I haven't cut the fabric off, because I'm just not sure how much that will take. And this fabric is called Marrakesh to Casablanca, and it's a 32 count linen by Kaylee Tent Stitch that I got. She's in Ontario, Canada. And I just love the gold in it. Just really, I thought was the perfect fabric for this stitch. I probably put in a picture that shows you the original picture of the project. And then this is the two threads that I'm using. They're Gloriana Silks. And one is called Poinsettia. It's kind of hard. Let me turn this around. One is called Poinsettia, and it's a variegated. You won't be able to see it. But one is called a Schoolhouse Red, and it's a plain, but it's a very striking red. So that's what I'm using for that. Okay. Well, that's my projects for today. I want to thank you for taking the time to sit back and watch. And I hope you've been able to do a bit of stitching. And I'm looking forward to coming back and doing this again. I am finding this very hard to film. I often stumble over my words, and I appreciate anyone that has gotten this far and has continued to watch me. Take care, and I'll see you next time. See you, love you, bye.